Chael was on the Big Brown Breakdown. I was talking to him about it, and he was saying this is the toughest training camp he's ever had because like his body just doesn't respond anymore like it used to. Tim Kennedy retired. I don't know if that's in your current events for Bryan, but Tim Kennedy retired, and he just goes, man, my body just doesn't respond anymore. You get to a certain age where it doesn't, and I think this is a super windy and crazy road to go down, but that's where like if you want those guys to perform at elite level, you can see why there'd be TRT exemptions.
Of course.
Because a guy like Tim Kennedy, a guy like Chael,
BJ
let's
Penn.
say you can get another 6 years out of them if you give them a TRT exemption, but they're not taking steroids.
Right.
So
they're
TRT,
keeping their hormones where they were when they were 25, for example. Well, yeah, I looked at BJ
and then they can
Penn's
train
body.
more. They can do a lot more stuff.
Yeah. Well, when we were doing the fight companion, I saw BJ Penn's body at 38, one of the greats, a legend. But I looked at his body, and I know how strict the USADA testing is, and I went, I don't think he was ever doing anything, but you look at his body, at the years of wear and tear.
I think it's just 38-year-old.
It's 38.
But BJ's never been like ripped ever.
No.
And remember, this is him at 145.
Correct.
Like he's always been like that soft Buddha kind of genius.
Yes. But I was just like, it's time to stop now. You're 38, and without TRT, you're just not going to compete with the Yair Rodriguez.
Do you have a problem with people saying he should retire?
I don't have a problem with that at all. I think that it's abundantly clear that as great as he was, he is in a different sport now. And I don't care what anybody says.
Like the game's just passing
You're
by.
in a different sport. You're primarily a boxer, and you're great at jiu-jitsu. It ain't going to get the job done in a sport where everybody is becoming a master at using their feet, their elbows, their hands, submission, takedowns. It, like you said, nowadays, if you want to compete in the top 10, you better be a black belt at everything. And on top of the fact that you're dealing with guys like Yair Rodriguez, you're dealing with guys like what's his name, Wonder Boy, who are fighting at a different distance. It's hard to get sparring partners. Your whole career has been about guys who are fighting at a Muay Thai or boxing distance. The whole thing is
it's almost a different, like
it's
you
a
said,
different sport. You're in a different sport.
It's
now.
almost like fucking Elvis came back now and he's playing the same tunes.
Yeah.
Like imagine if Johnny Cash tried playing the same tunes. The fuck?
That's right.
Everyone like, what the fuck was that?
Yes.
Why is that on the radio?
Yes.
Like that's how fast the game's evolved.
And
Johnny Cash.
The hardest thing for a guy like BJ Penn, and I've talked to other fighters who are now retired about this recently, that if you really get down to it, and I have with a couple of them, they still in their mind, even though they know it's over, they think
they can be champ.
They're just like, in my mind, I want to be a world champ still. And that's what drove them. It's very hard to let that go because it's such an identity.
You have to put
part of your identity.
Well, you have to put your energy in something, or you have to find something that's gonna fill that void. Like I think, don't get me wrong, I think CT is very real. I think all that brain trauma with football and fighters and boxers are very real. But I think you also got to take into account just straight up depression from not being the man anymore.
Of course.
From not chasing something.
The
from
crowd
not having
screaming
the
your name.
passion.
Yeah.
If you don't have that, I think you really need to focus on that, what that does to your mentality, the makeup of your body, the chemistry. When you don't have that passion, where it's no different when these 70-year-olds, 75-year-olds retire, then they die like 2 years later.
Mm-hmm.
Then you got this 85-year-old he's like, I'm not retired, man. I know if I retire, I die, and they just keep on keeping on.
Right.
Because once that passion's gone, you get depression, testosterone drops. I think there's some correlation there.
I think I couldn't agree with you more. I was thinking about that because I went to a Picasso exhibit, and he had painted all the paintings when he was 90. And I am not kidding. His painting at 90, and I walked through with the art expert explaining what he was doing.
That'd be cool.
It was so illuminating. But at 90 years old, the guy was painting as well as he was at 40. And when I think about sports and geniuses at sport and the experience they have and the creative energy that they put into being such good fighters, for example, like BJ Penn, it's got to be a form of a crisis when you actually realize that you have to stop. And because you've given your fighting everything, you must feel like you're in the middle of a desert and you don't have anywhere to place your energy. And tough.
And it's easy to say, make sure you have something else to do when you're done fighting. It's like,
how?
Well, if I do that, then I'll never be as good as I'm supposed to be
Correct.
in this arena.
Correct.